something that I just cannot overlook anymore, and that is coincidences. The disease began in Wuhan. Coincidentally, that is the home of a level 4 biolaboratory. There are also two other laboratories there doing research on viruses in bats. And one of the viruses that they were working on in one of those labs is almost identical to COVID-19. Now, several of the staff became ill from one of those labs in November 2019, just before the outbreak. So, there's that coincidence. And lastly, the Wuhan Center for Disease Control and Prevention moved their lab into Wuhan in wintertime in December. And where did they move it? They moved it just next to that market where the coronavirus started. So, and that was just 6 days before the first patient was discovered. So, I don't have any proof that this virus came from a lab. But boy, you know what? There's a lot of coincidences, aren't there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but that's the thing. There's a lot of coincidences that happen. But, for what I understand also are, I will not believe on something which is, and then if that happened in Wuhan, what's the purpose of releasing it to the public and making everybody sick? I mean, the whole world.
Yeah, there's all kinds of speculation that the Chinese were trying to lower the population and get rid of the old people. There's all kinds of crazy things going on. But I think if we look at it, if we stand back and look at it, if this is true, if this thing was developed in a lab, I think it's an accident. I think that if this is true, if all of this coincidences all turn out to be the correct thing, what do they say? What's Occam's razor? The simplest thing is what it is. So if it turns out to be that's what it is, I think it was an accident. I think somebody got sick in the lab and they left and they gave it to somebody else, and then that person gave it to somebody else, and then that person shopped in the market, and then they gave it to everybody. So we're never going to, the Chinese, they're not going to help us out in this investigation in any way. They're not giving out any of this data that we would need to prove this. So, I think that we will probably never know who patient 0 is. And whether it was brought into the market by an animal or by a human, whether it was connected to the Wuhan lab, we may never know this. But at least now things are slowly starting to come to light. And so that's why I just wanted to bring it up really quick, because I got asked this yet again about the Wuhan lab possibility. And so I did some research on what the latest is, and that's the latest coincidences that have seemed to have come up recently.
Okay. Well, bottom line here, whatever happened, because it's been going on for the last, it's more than a year now. The virus is all over. It expanded to, there are more variants all over the world. So now the best thing that we can do for us humans, just be careful, take care of yourself, and kill the virus by having vaccine.
Yeah, yes, there you go. Best advice from Lalie Tolentino. All right, Lalie, yes. So what do you got this week from our viewers?
Okay, Eric, we always have different questions from different people from our viewers. Let's start with Gina of Taguig City. Why is McConnell pressuring Republicans to block January 6th commission? What is January 6th commission? Can you explain?
All right. So, first of all, in January 6th, Congress certified the presidential election results to see who the winner was. But at the same time that they were doing that, a group of Republicans were trying to stall the vote, making these long speeches about how the election was stolen. And at that exact same time, President Trump, who lost the election by a lot, was outside doing a rally in front of the Capitol with a bunch of his followers. So he was also saying that the same thing the Republicans were saying inside, that the election was stolen. Now, Trump and his political sidekicks were firing up that crowd, saying that they needed to march over to Congress and do trial by combat, whatever that means. So Trump was saying that he would lead the way. However, of course, he actually hid in the White House, as we all know, during the whole insurrection when it was taking place. So the Trump crowd marched over to the Capitol building to take it back from the people who stole the election, which is now being referred to as the big lie. So they stormed the building, they overpowered it, and they overpowered the police, and they proceeded to ransack the whole place. Well, they're trying to find out what was behind this. So they have the Justice Department, which is now going out and arresting everybody that did it. Because people say, oh, no, it's my right to protest. No, it's your right to protest, but it's not your right to go in and try and kill a congressman, which is what their plan was. They ransacked the place, but the idea was to go in to find certain congresspeople and murder them. So that is against the law. So they've arrested a whole bunch of people. And then Congress is looking into how the police were so easily, overtaken, and what they can do to more secure the Capitol, which I would think is the most secure place in the world. But anyway, it was overrun by a bunch of people. So they want to do a commission. Now, Mitch McConnell has come out and said, well, wait a minute. Why do we have this investigation going on and that investigation going on? We don't need another investigation. We don't need a commission. So he's gone about himself to block this commission. Now, what this commission wants to do is not exactly what's going on right now, because what they want to look into is what was the president's role? What did the president do? And why was the president spouting about this days before it happened? How did he know it was going to happen? And what did he know? And there's a bunch of other senators and congressmen which seem to be in on this, like they were working with the people who led the insurrection. And during the insurrection, there were text messages going back and forth between Congress people and the people that were there trying to find Congress people to kill. In fact, there were text messages from certain Congress people saying, this is where they're going to be. You need to go to this section to find them. So that is what that commission is really designed to do, was to figure out exactly what happened and what the president's role in it, and what were these Congress people's role in it, and did they plan this whole thing with these people days or weeks or months before?
Well, in my opinion, this January 6th event was well planned by those people. There is a very clear indication that it was planned well.
Yeah, and
though they did not really succeed in the whole process, but
no, all they did was bust up a lot of stuff and mess up the Capitol. But I have to say, 5 people died, 5 people were killed. Yeah. On that, and one of them was a police officer who was beaten to death by the crowd. So why would Mitch McConnell want to block this investigation? Because don't we need to know what happened exactly? And the reason is that we are all, it's not me just saying this, but Mitch McConnell he's already lost a ton of power because of Donald Trump and the election. They lost the Senate. And he doesn't want to lose any more power. And if they do this investigation and they find out that all these Republicans were part of this insurrection, they were part of the planning on it, when they find out that the president was involved in the planning of this thing, then ethics committee is going to get involved in this. And let's say that they uncover text messages from which they already have, and I think they want to release a lot of this stuff now, from a congressperson saying, this is where you can find this Democrat in order to kill them. So if this all information comes out, this is going to hurt the Republicans incredibly. And so I think that's why Mitch McConnell is now trying to block this.
Yeah, I believe so. So, okay, Mr. McConnell, sorry,
let me just make one more quick point. This legislation has been blocked, by the way. It was blocked on Friday because of the filibuster. Remember we talked about the filibuster before? So now Mitch McConnell has filibustered this thing, so now you need a 2/3 vote. They were 5 votes short of getting the 2/3 vote. So this will not go through. They will not have this commission, but the Democrats have said, we are not backing down. We are going to continue to keep investigating this until we find out the truth.
All right, good luck, Democrats. Okay, let's go to Annie of Bicol region. Oh my God, this is a little far. What do you think What do you need to know before you travel to Japan and other countries during this time of pandemic?
All right. Well, right now, traveling to any country is unadvisable.
Yes.
We are, the brunt of the typhoon is over, but it's still raining outside. In other words, the effect of the vaccine is still not where it needs to be, and this virus is still here, and it's still going around. Now, Japan was February 9th that they barred foreigners from coming into the country. Of course, this is a problem because the Olympics is coming up. And now,
yes,
they have this plan to vaccinate anyone that's going to be coming in to compete in the Olympics, which has created a whole host of other issues that they're trying to iron out right now. But right now, many countries are banned from coming to Japan. It's always changing. There's always exceptions to the rules, just like here in the Philippines. It changes literally almost daily. But if you get into Japan, there's a 14-day quarantine that you have to go through. You can request a PCR test, but you still have to go through this quarantine. There's restrictions for different types of groups coming in, for people who are studying there. There's a bunch of different rules. So if you are going to Japan, you need to look up what it is today, because what it was last week might be different. And this is just like going to any other country. Each country right now has its own restrictions, and they're always changing. And, we don't know when the world is ever going to go back to the way it was before. We don't know if it will ever go back to exactly the way it was before, the way traveling was back then. But, as we have seen, traveling has sudden changes. Look at me as an example. When I came from the United States to the Philippines, so it took me a long time to come back to the Philippines, and finally when I did, I had a plane ticket, and I was literally 2 hours from leaving for the airport when I found out that the Philippines had blocked everybody coming from Korea, and my plane was passing through Korea. So there was a chance that I wouldn't be able to come through. So that night, I bought a different ticket, coming from New York directly to Manila. Mm-hmm. The very next day, the Philippines banned all flights coming in from America. So this is what I mean. These things can change on a dime. Who knows when all of a sudden the Philippines may, or Japan may, all of a sudden have a flurry of cases. And what are they going to do? What's the first thing they're going to do? They're going to shut down the airports. So if you're going to risk traveling right now, you just got to really keep your eyes open. Keep your eyes open and your ears open.
Yeah. A friend of mine was supposed to come here about 2 weeks ago. They were not able to take the plane from LA to Taipei because Taipei to Manila is already, they shut it down from Taipei to Cebu. So instead of, traveling to the Philippines, they went back to Virginia. So that's why they're back in Virginia now. So don't travel yet, guys. Stay home. Let's go to Belfast City. How true China vaccinated 400 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines. How did they do it?
All right, let me just repeat that because we're having a little bit of technical problems here. But how true is China? Did they vaccinate 400 million doses of the COVID-19? And how did they get so many doses in? And listen, here's how they did it. Here's how China was able to dose 400 million people. They are China. That's why. They have control of their people. Mm-hmm. If they tell the province, hey, you have till June 9th to vaccinate everyone, believe me, everyone in that province is going to get a vaccine, whether they want it or not. Right now, actually, China has passed the 500 million mark in vaccines. They're doing something like 17 million vaccines a day. It's like a mass immunization of the people. It took them 7 days to get 100 million shots done. Now think about that for a second, in 1 week. And so far in the Philippines, in total, in all the time that we've had the vaccine now, the Philippines has got just a little over 1 million people that have had their second dose. So, and there's 108 million people in the Philippines. So, this is something that what China is doing is absolutely astounding. Right now in the Philippines, they think that they're going to be able to start vaccinating adults in August. Like anybody that wants a vaccine will be able to get it. But currently right now, they're doing around 30,000 vaccines a day in the Philippines. So, we just have to kind of wait and see if they can pull this off by August. But it would be great if by August the Philippines can start vaccinating adults, people over 19.
The I think what China did was they made it like mandatory to all their people. But the Philippines, the thing that we have issue here. When there's the political issue about this one, like because there's a lot of Filipinos reluctant to take the vaccine.
Yeah.
The problem is if the government will make it really mandatory, we can be like China, vaccinate everyone, then we will get our herd immunity hopefully by December. I don't know, but the problem is we don't also have vaccine yet. I mean, we don't have enough yet.
Yeah.
So how can we do it? But that is possible. The moment we have a vaccine available here, I think we can do it simultaneously in the whole Philippines. We can do it. We have a lot of medical people who can just do the vaccination. So it can be done if they want to.
The key is making it mandatory, and how are the people going to react to having to take a vaccine, being forced to take a vaccine by, a law that's passed that said you must have a vaccine. And that's going to be what's going to be interesting about this. Because, it would be great if the Philippines could make it mandatory. Then, everybody would have to give it, every province would have to make sure that all its residents are vaccinated. But how are the people going to react? Especially the fact that half of this country is scared to death to take this vaccine. So, in China, it doesn't matter because it's communist society. You have to do what, if the government says that you're going to be a gymnast, you're going to be a gymnast. That's the way it is. So if they say you're going to take a vaccine and you're going to get it done by June 9th, which they say they're going to have like half the people vaccinated by June 9th. Now granted, China has dosed 500 million people, but they have 1.4 billion people total. So, they're not close to being finished either. So, and I've spoken to several of my friends in China, and they've all said to me, every single one of them has said, the virus is over here. It's over in China. We're back to normal. We don't have to wear a mask all the time. We go out, we do the things. All the businesses are open. Everything's back to normal. So that's what they're saying.
Okay. Well, if the Philippines can duplicate, can be like China, the way they did it, maybe we can be, free, by for now wearing face mask later on. But then we need to do it. Everybody has to take their vaccine, so take it.
Yeah.
All right.
Do it for the good of the country.
Now, another. This from Milet of Las Piñas. Do you think vaccine passport is practical to use when traveling to other countries?
Interesting question.
Vaccine passport.
The vaccine passport. First of all, this is not a new idea. In the 1900s, to enter a country, you needed documentation that you had a smallpox vaccine, or you had to show the scar where you got the shot, or you had to show your pitted face that proves that you already had the virus. And for a while, you needed proof that you had a yellow fever vaccine if you were traveling from certain places. But, these days, that may not work exactly like it did in the 1900s. Why? Because we have really good printers, and you can make a forgery really easy these days. So that's, I think, what they're worried about. But supposedly, this new vaccine passport is going to be an online version. So when you get to the country, you hand them their passport, and then they look up if you had the vaccine. That's the way I think it's supposed to work. Of course, the first question you're going to ask is, what about people that don't have the digital passport technology? But, I'm assuming they're working on that. But I also read that they're also going to have paper passports for some countries. So there you go. I think it's a really good idea. But the big question is, what about countries that don't want to have this? Like, that don't want to have vaccine passports, like the United States, of course, who says that they are not going to do this. So, or rather, some states are not going to do it. Some states are not going to require you to have a vaccinated passport or a vaccinated ID. So obviously right now in the United States, there's a big political battle going on there right now on whether people must get vaccinated or not. Like some senators, such as Ron Paul, who we spoke about on the show, says that he will not get vaccinated. I know Ron Paul needs to play up the Trump supporters so they will donate to his political future, but come on, man. Sometimes I have to do a face plant when I hear senators like that speak out. But So there are going to be some issues with getting this vaccine passport thing rolling now. There are places like the UK and China and Israel that are testing this right now. They're going to plan to do this right now. To enter the country, you must have the online vaccine passport. Mm-hmm. So they're giving it a test to see how it's going to work. And I think that it is the future. I think it is a great idea. I think that, in order to enter your country, you have to show that you're not going to spread a virus to that country. How did the virus start in the first place? How did it get spread around the world in the first place? Airplanes. That's how it got spread around. It got spread around by people getting on a plane from Europe and flying to New York City and bringing the virus in and spreading it all over. So if we don't want that to happen again, and I guarantee you this virus thing is not over, not because of COVID-19, but possibly because another virus that might be coming from the COVID-19, I think in order to stop this thing from spreading around the world, this is what they need to do.
Yeah, I don't understand why don't they just cooperate to fight the virus?
Yeah, I don't know.
Because if those are be part of the solution, why not do it?
It's mind-boggling.
But that's the problem with the politician, because they want to look good, better than the other ones, so they can win again on the next election. That is so sad. I think those politicians should think first of their own people.
Yeah, I mean,
especially we're talking about health.
Yeah, and Ron Paul seems to spend more time on his curly hair about figuring out how it's buffed up just right than his own constituents and whether they're going to die or not. And to say, I'm not going to get a vaccine because I don't need to, because I am a Trump supporter. I don't know. There's some kind of things that I just can't even believe about the United States. They're doing better now, and they say that they're going to get everybody vaccinated, but still there are people that are holdouts. There are people that are not going to get their vaccine, and I don't get it. But anyway.
Okay. Yeah, me too. I don't really get it. Maybe I should talk to them.
Yeah, we need to have Lalie Tolentino go have a talk with Senator Ron Paul. And tell him to get rid of the curly hair. That is 1980s. Nobody does it like that anymore.
I'm gonna cut this hair though.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is from May of Pasay. Okay. Philippine Ambassador to USA, Babes Mualdez, says the Philippines will benefit from the 80 million doses of vaccine stockpiled from the US, Moderna and Astra. How cool is that?
Yeah. Okay, supposedly the Philippines is going to get, 4 million doses from that 80 million. The United States, here's the interesting thing. The United States thinks they're going to have herd immunity by July 4th because they are going crazy with the vaccine. Everybody's getting a vaccine there. So, except Ron Paul. But I think, from one of the worst hit countries by the virus, and now they're the first ones to come out of it. And when they hit that number, when they hit their herd immunity number, I think that they will start to give out doses. They'll start to give out more doses to the world. And I think this is where the Philippines is going to come in, because they're going to give those vaccines to their friends first. And the Philippines is a friend of the United States still, I think. So hopefully, hopefully that the Philippines is going to get a lot of those vaccines that are going to become extras once the United States reaches their goal, which they say is July 4th. Now, these vaccines will go through COVAX, which COVAX is that group that makes sure that it's equal dispersion, that every country, it's not just the rich countries that get the vaccine, that everybody gets an equal share in the vaccine. So I think this is great. I hope the Philippines gets their 4 million coming up soon. And then after July, that the United States will help the Philippines in getting more vaccines.
All right, let's wait for that. And hopefully, we don't actually, the Philippines should not wait for that donation to the U.S. We should, be continuously buying from, different manufacturers of the vaccine, so we can, get people vaccinated in the Philippines. We're waiting for that.
Yeah, I think the Philippines should not just wait on just donations. They should balance it out with both, buying it and getting the donations as well. So, there you go.
Okay. Amy Tai Tai. Oh, do you think countries like countries in Africa can be like India on vaccine supply. So what do you understand by this?
Yeah, okay, let me just repeat that because we're still having some technical issues. Do you think countries in Africa can be like India on vaccine supply? Now, I think what she means, we've talked about the nightmare that's going on in India right now. People dying because they can't get even the most basic medical care. Towns are running out of oxygen. And the government has had to stop the export of vaccines, the ones that it is producing. Now, this is a big problem because COVAX, who we just talked about, they rely on India to get vaccines for some of the poorest countries, including Africa. Now, why is this happening? Why is this a problem? So if India stops producing vaccines, why is that such a big problem? It's because that India is the largest manufacturer of vaccines in the world. And if they all of a sudden stop exporting vaccines, places like Kenya have done very well in the distribution of their vaccines. They've gotten, all the vaccines they've gotten, they have given out. In March, they got over 1 million doses from COVAX, and they quickly got it into the arms of everybody with no problem. Hospitality workers and taxi drivers. Where are they going to get the second dose? The second dose isn't there yet. They rely on India to get that second dose. And now people who have qualified for the first dose, they don't know where they're going to get it. The elderly, which is now qualified, because now they're a little bit far behind, but the elderly is now qualifying. They don't know where to find the shot. And the president of Kenya is saying, oh, wait a minute, there's no need to worry. We're getting it soon. But they're not. I mean, right now supplies are running out, and they don't know where the second dose is going to happen. And India is saying right now maybe June, but how could anybody have predicted what was going to happen in India in the first place? Man, they had an incredible, monumental outbreak of the virus, and they didn't handle it well. They had a lot of things that they were not prepared for, and now they don't want to export their vaccines for the obvious reason they want to keep it for their own people. Could this have been avoided? Should COVAX had not put so much faith in just India for getting vaccines for places like, Africa? The other problem that they're, having now in Africa is they can't get the second dose. So how effective is the vaccine if you don't get the second dose, or if the second dose is delayed by a couple of months? And scientifically speaking, they say that this is a big problem, that if you don't get the second dose, the diffusion that happens in the immunity when you get the first dose, it goes away. It builds up and then it goes away because it doesn't have the backup. So then you have to go back and get the first one again. So this is a problem, and they still are not exactly sure how they're going to solve this problem. They're just hoping that India will make a comeback in June and start re-exporting their vaccines again.
Okay, well, that is sad for, African country if that happens. Anyway, all right, let's go now to Ingrid of Las Piñas. What do you think of Manny Pacquiao fight versus Spence in August?
Okay, what do we think of the Manny Pacquiao fight versus Spence that's coming up in August? All right, the real question for me is why? Why do this fight? I know people are going to start yelling at me, but when fighters hit 40 years old, they usually keep fighting because they need the money. That they made a fortune in boxing and they blew it, or that somebody stole it from them. This is not Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao is rich. He's really rich. He doesn't need to fight anymore. He's a senator. I mean, what is Manny thinking? Why go through getting banged in the head or possibly knocked out by this guy? I understand, after his uneventful fight with Floyd Mayweather, which was a total bust, in which Manny Pacquiao lost, which we knew he was going to lose because we knew that that Floyd Mayweather was going to run away from him the whole fight, which is exactly what happened. Manny couldn't ever get to fight him. So, but since that, I thought Manny was going to retire after that. But since then, he has beaten some pretty good guys. And I mean, some really, major fighters that he fought, and he beat them. And so it's still a surprise to me every time Manny announces his next fight. I mean, I still don't, Manny, why don't you just run for president? You're going to get hit a lot, but you're not going to get hit in the head by being president. But
yeah.
Let me just quickly say something. My observation on Manny Pacquiao. Honestly, if Manny Pacquiao was getting 1,000 pesos for every fight that he did, Manny Pacquiao, I bet you, would still be boxing. Right now he gets hundreds of millions of dollars. But if he was getting 1,000 pesos or 100, he would still be boxing. He's one of he's just one of those guys. They come along once in a generation. Mm-hmm. Manny Pacquiao, Mike Tyson, Muhammad Ali. They don't care about the money. They want to fight. It's part of them. It's what's inside of the ego, and the pride inside of them far outweighs any kind of payday. And Manny Pacquiao is one of the most successful people in sports. And he's arguably the greatest boxer that ever lived. And he's a Filipino. But he doesn't have anything to prove to anybody. Yeah. But Manny Pacquiao has pride, and he has pride in his nation, and they hang so much on him, and he is not going to stop fighting until somebody tells him, you can't fight anymore. We're not going to sanction any more of your fights. And they can't say that to him because he keeps doing well. And this guy Spence that he's going to fight right now, this guy is no cakewalk. This guy is undefeated, and he's big. He's 149 pounds. Supposedly when Manny Pacquiao fought at 106, he's a big guy. And so, when Manny Pacquiao fought at 106 pounds, he put rocks in his pocket because he was less than 100 pounds, the minimum weight that you had to be. And so he filled his pockets with rocks just so he could be heavier. So, Manny is this guy Spence, he's never been beaten. Manny has faced a lot of guys that are undefeated, and he's knocked a lot of those guys out and screwed up their perfect records. Manny doesn't fear anybody. He's never backed down. He's never said, let me wait and negotiate the fight. No, if somebody wants to fight, Manny Pacquiao's like, yeah, let's fight. And so anybody out there that says Manny Pacquiao is too old to fight, this is one of those times. I read a ton of stuff that says, Manny should not be in this fight. He is too old to fight. All right. So if you're saying that Manny can't beat this guy because he's too old, you want to make a bet on that? I'll take that bet. Because I got a feeling Manny's going to beat this guy.
Okay.
I'm just saying that's my, Manny could get knocked out in the third round. But I think, to some people in this world, age does not matter. We all get older. I get tired now and I can't see. But some people don't age like that. And Manny Pacquiao seems to be one of those guys.
Yeah, I think so. I really don't know.
He's a freak of nature.
He's doing a lot of good stuff already. All right. Okay, Manny, good luck. So, let's go to Andy of Pakistan. All right. Senators back up incentives of different cities to encourage people to take COVID-19 vaccine. Smart thing. Did you hear about this?
Yes.
Some senators are backing up some cities for some incentive, giving them rice or a raffle, a house and lot. If you're going to get a vaccine, you're going to qualify for that raffle to win a house and lot or something like that. So what do you think? So
the incentives to take the vaccine, that's what we're talking about here. I mean, why not? Although, geez.
Yeah.
I mean, wouldn't it be better to spread the money around for people who are hurting right now during the vaccine as opposed to doing this? But I guess, they need to do what they need to do. Now, I've read a lot about this. It's like a lottery. It's like a raffle. So if you go in and you get vaccinated, you get like a raffle ticket. And then at the end of the raffle, they give away prizes, and, a house and a motorcycle and food. Actually, I think, if I'm not mistaken, the grand prize is in Las Piñas, and it's a house and a lot and 2 motorcycles.
Yes.
So, I mean, just to show up and get your vaccine. How great! How great is this? But, I guess they could spend the money buying more vaccines. I don't know. I mean, I guess it's one way to get people to step up to the plate and get their vaccine. What if they had a raffle? What if they had a raffle to not smoke cigarettes? I guess they could raffle off anything to get people not to do things that are bad for their health. I mean, the vaccine will save your life. I would think that, the vaccine will save your life. That is the best thing to do, to say to people, to get them to get vaccinated. But in the Philippines, no. You got to give them, not only do you have to say this will save your life, but also you'll get a house and maybe a couple of motorcycles. Okay, what else do you need to get the vaccine? So, okay, fine. If this is what they need to do, then this is what they need to do. I mean, right now the vaccine, they have completely dosed about a little over 1 million people. And that means they have a lot to go. And if you do the math, if they continue going at the rate that they're going, we'll get everybody vaccinated enough for herd immunity in about 9 years. So that is not good enough. They're going to have to pick it up. All right. So, I mean, I don't know what kind of house this is. If it's a nice house, if it's a tiny little 1-bedroom house, I don't know. But
you know what?
So, I mean,
it's okay, whatever kind of house. It's for free. It's for free.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody's donating the house and donating the motorcycles, okay, great. And if this gets more people to come down to Las Piñas and get their vaccine, you know what? We're doing something better they're doing something better for the country. And so, is it a good idea? Sure, why not? And I think...
Yeah, as long as it's legal.
Yeah, as long as it's legal. And as long as they're giving out other stuff. They're talking about giving out groceries. Hey, that's a great idea. Come in and get your vaccine and get a raffle ticket to get, 2,000 pesos worth of groceries. What's wrong with that? And get a sponsorship from the grocery store? That's great. You're two birds with one stone. Feeding people and getting them the vaccine. So, yeah, okay. I'm all for it.
Okay, Eric. Take your vaccine. All right.
I want that motorcycle.
Manila City. What is your bet for new quarantine status beginning June 1? GCQ or what?
Okay, so that question was, what is your bet for new quarantine status? What is it going to be? What is it going to be? Is it going to be GCQ? Because the headlines say that Manila might ease GCQ on June 1st. Okay, wait a minute. That's wrong. That was the headline May 28, 2020, that Manila may ease GCQ. So if you look at, because when I was thinking about this week, I looked in the Google and sure enough brought up headlines from 2020. And the 2020 headline on May 28th was Manila eases GCQ. Here we are, 2021. We are in the same situation. What are we going to do about, GCQ? Before, back last year, they were easing to GCQ. Now we're in GCQ. We just came out of MECQ. So now we're in GCQ. The decision is whether we're going to move from GCQ to MGCQ. I think that's the new letters. Cases are somewhat declining. They're down to, I think it's 400 cases a day in Manila. And something like 4,000 to 6,000 cases a day overall. But from what I understand, from what I read, that the government, some of the experts are telling the government that they should not move from GCQ yet. Yeah, I believe so, because there are days that our cases still go up. I think we're used to this anyway. GCQ is actually kind of open already, and then they're going to add more industries to open. Yeah. So I think we better. Personally, I think GCQ is better for the next at least a month. I think a modified version of the GCQ would be fine, just to get more businesses open. I think the curfew can stay. I don't think there's any issue about the curfew. The mask and face shield mandate should continue for months, if not a year. I think that is a great thing that the government has done, because what they have done is get people used to doing it, and so people do it now just as protocol. They don't have to think about it. So I think that is a great idea. Keeping people from gathering, from having huge parties. There was some issue that happened in Quezon City where a pool party and it became like a super spreader event. 51 people got COVID. I think that what's going to happen is starting June 1st, I think they're going to have a new version of GCQ. I don't think they're going to move down to the MGCQ, but maybe something in between, something that everybody can live with. It's just a little bit less, but still keeping the virus from spreading all over the place.
Yeah, that's smart thing to do. We still need to be under GCQ, I think. All right, let's go to now. Okay, what can you suggest about our health during the pandemic to avoid depression? I mean, probably this is just like, Eric, what do you do to keep yourself healthy during this time of pandemic?
Now, the question was, in case anybody didn't quite get it, was what is our suggestion about health during the pandemic to avoid depression? Now, I think just about everybody I know has been affected with depression in the last year, some form of depression. Your job has just disappeared. You're stuck at home. Your landlord wants his money. Meralco is sending you notices like every week. Your family wants to know when you're going to start sending money again. You have 2 months of food left, and the TV is saying the economy is not coming back anytime soon. Anxiety, depression, that bottle of booze in the cabinet, you're thinking about taking it out tonight. I don't know. There's just so many things. You can't sleep. You're eating junk food all the time. You're not able to visit your family. You're isolated. All your conversations are online. You have no face-to-face conversations. Maybe you have a husband and your children are there and they're all feeling depressed. I mean, I don't know anyone that I can think of that has not had some form of depression. Now, I was stuck in the United States for a year, and I had not lived in the United States for a long time. I haven't lived in my hometown in 35 years, and all of a sudden, I'm living there. I don't know anybody. I'm stuck at home just watching TV and eating. And of course, you're going to get depressed. You don't have anybody to talk to face to face. I went weeks without seeing another human being because I live way up in the woods. And all the time I'm thinking, I'm going back to the Philippines in June, then in July, and then August, and then September, and they keep delaying it, and they keep delaying it. And so, it's almost like forced depression. And I know so many people that are, they stuck at home in Makati because they lost their job, and they can't get another job. And they're just sitting there watching TV, and they don't, they quit going out. And so, one of the things that I found that I did, because I realized at one point, I'm going to, if I don't get out of here, I'm going to put a gun to my head soon because I'm just going crazy. And so what I did was I made a schedule. This is what I'm going to do tomorrow. And I would write it down. I had a board, actually. I had a whiteboard, and I would write down, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to get up at this time, and I'm going to eat breakfast. And then, and I spent time making exactly the schedule. And in the beginning, it was hard to stick to it because, you get up and you're like, I don't need to do this schedule. I'm going back to bed. And then you finally realize, what? I need to stick to this. And you get up and you accomplish something. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to stop going to bed at 9 o'clock, and I'm going to stop waking up at 12 noon. And I'm going to stop sleeping on the couch, and I'm going to start jogging, and I'm going to start cooking, and I'm going to quit ordering out, and I'm going to go to the grocery store, and I'm going to start practicing piano, and I'm going to find something to do and a hobby, something that challenges me, something that I can accomplish every day. And I'm going to, all these people that I quit talking to because I just got tired of talking online all the time. I'm going to go back and start, rekindling my relationships in the Philippines on a daily basis. Maybe study something. We were doing the show, and I know there was a couple of times where we did replays because I couldn't do the show for whatever reason. So we started working on the show and getting really focusing on studying on things that we had talking about things that we had never done before, and talking about the virus. and how things are. What is the good things in life now? Not always focusing on how horrible things are, but what are the good things in life? So I think that is what I can suggest, because everybody's depressed. Everybody I know, rich people, poor people, everybody. Nobody is getting out of this easy.
Yeah, that's very true. There's so many reasons why people are depressed with the whole situation that we are in right now. So, in addition to that, one is really, for me personally, is for me to be able to work in a day. I start my day, of course, aside from prayers, I start my day with my exercise, at least walking, because that helps a lot. If you have if you have exercise, then your blood flows and it feels good. It feels good after that, and then not just doing nothing. You don't keep yourself busy. And there's so many things to do.
Yeah.
I don't watch TV anymore. I don't have my TV anymore, so I just whenever I feel like watching the YouTube and listen to the phone people, because I'm doing sales work, so I have to talk to people, talk to people. This one way up, and then if some people are depressed also and they have a problem, talk to the people, because talking to people is releasing it's either you're angry, you're really depressed, whatever feeling, or better yet, if you're happy, share. When you call somebody and you're happy, hey, how are you? So the spirit of the other side will be lifted. So, and those are the things that I think everybody should do. I mean, don't stay home, and we're all, and most of the time we're all home, and we cannot really go out much. We can go out anyway, but we're very, restricted. What do you call this? If you go to the mall, you can just move around a little bit, but then, of course, when you go to the mall, sometimes they said, I don't feel like going to the mall. I don't have money to shop. So they get depressed.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly what I was gonna suggest. Is first thing, exercise. It's the greatest thing. Put on your mask and your shield and go outside. Walk around the block. But one of the best things that you can do is the malls are open. Okay, none of us have any money. We're not gonna go shopping, but get one of your friends and go walk around the mall. Get some exercise. Call it a workout. Just go get a workout and walk around the mall and talk to somebody not online. Talk to somebody face to face. And one of the things that I think is the best thing that you can do is, if you have someone else who is also in the same situation that you're in and they're depressed. Okay, so you get one sad person and you put them together with another sad person. Okay, maybe both people will not be as sad because you're talking to somebody that you can relate to. And I think that's great. Some people, I'll get with that person because they're so depressed. Hey, you're depressed. Put two depressions together. Maybe something good will come out of it. It's not going to make you more depressed. You're already depressed. So I think, meeting people and talking with people that are having the same boat and getting the things that are in your mind that constantly are in your mind out, get them out of your body. Speak to somebody, speak to one of your friends or something like that. I think that's a great thing to do. And I just, I remember of what I went through when I was stuck at home. And I mean, the worst thing you can, I've lived in the Philippines for 13 years. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I'm stuck and I can't go home. And I can't go to work, and I can't do the things that I'm used to doing. I can't eat the food that I always eat. I can't meet the people that I'm used to meeting. I don't have the friends. And, there's only so much you can do online. And we talked about this before, on a show before, that, there's a big difference between talking in person and talking on Facebook. And there is, I mean, it's a certain kind of feeling that you have. And, the way you express your emotions in person is a lot different. And so that's why, during this time where I had so many issues and so forth, that was part of what I decided I needed to do. I need to go and talk to somebody. I need to get out of the house. I would end up going to the grocery store and talking to the lady at the checkout just so I could have somebody to talk to. And I think that is probably what helps a lot. And also getting outside and seeing the sun. I went for a week one time and I never saw the sun. And I think that's something that is also very beneficial to get us through this. And the Philippines is having a hard time. And we're always talking about the worst future, the worst possible future they could be. The economy is in trouble, and everybody, doesn't have a job, and it's never going to get better for 10 years. Okay, maybe. And maybe not. There are lights. There are flickers of light, of positive thinking that go on right now, and I'm starting to see more and more of them. We've been on the radio talking about, the future of the Philippines, and it just seems so sad and desperate. But as times, as things progress, I start to see lights. I start to see little things that are popping up to make me believe that there's an end to this. There's an end to this, and it's not going to be as bad as we make it out to be. That maybe the Philippines is not going to be as bad as we have been saying that it's going to be. That maybe things may change. Things may change quickly and for the better. And that's the best that we can hope for.
Yeah. So all we have to do is be positive all the time. I know it's easier said than done, but there are ways to do it. And for us to be able to live and survive in this pandemic or our current situation, we just need to think positive and without it all, always pray.
Yeah.
Always pray.
I mean, right? One of the things that I did during the pandemic, and I feel bad about this because I don't do it very much in the Philippines, I started to go to church again. And I have to say, going to church, now I had not been to church in a long time, and so a lot of the people there remember me when I was much thinner. They're like, oh, wow, Eric, we haven't seen you in 20 years. But just that feeling of family and togetherness, those people that I could sit down and talk to. And the church that I go to, people are so incredibly nice. And they're so supportive of anything. And, there was a lot of problems going to church in the United States for a while because churches were closed. And then they opened for partial, so they could have 25 people in the church. And churches could have church outside. So, I went to one of the times where they have them and they're staggered in the church. And, but it's very helpful. It's very helpful, you'll find. It's just take a Sunday and go to church and meet people and talk to people. It doesn't matter if you're overly religious or you practice Catholicism every day. It's just a nice place to go. Nice place to go. And the people usually, when they're in church, they're nice.
Yeah. So that's why, it's, here now, we're like, how many percent open the church for those like Catholic people, they go to church, and for the Christian, because we have our church also, we can do online, and, one way of really releasing all this anger, this anxiety is talking to God. And that's how I, cope up with the situation, because there's no other way. I mean, I'm alone, and I cannot be calling friends everywhere. I mean, you talk to them, maybe they're depressed as well. So the only thing that I always talk to is God every day, from morning to evening. So that's why I keep keeping myself alive.
I mean, at the least, it's going to make you feel better. At the minimum, you'll feel better. I've never met, anybody that hasn't prayed and spoken to whoever they may, whatever God they meant to believe in, and they feel better afterwards. I don't think I've met anybody that hasn't felt better after letting it out and speaking, or praying or talking to your pastor or talking to the people of the church, and just tell them what's on your mind and that, you've been feeling like this. And afterwards, you may feel a little bit better, just even a little bit. And that's enough. That's enough. Because you keep adding those little bits, and then eventually, maybe you're not going to be so depressed anymore.
Yes, I agree.
And speaking of stuff that doesn't make us depressed is our show. And our show makes me so happy every week to be on the show and talking to Lalie Tolentino. And we are just about to run out of time here. But I think this has been an interesting show, especially talking about what we've been speaking about in the last part, because it is a big part of this pandemic. What people are going through personally, because a lot of people I know are going through very, very, very difficult times right now. Some people, the most difficult time of their entire life. And so it's something that I'm glad we got a chance to talk about it. I'm glad that our viewers wrote in the questions. The questions today were great. Like I said, they were all over the place, which is what we love. And so I was stuck in the... Lalie, thank you again for coming to us with all these questions. Now, I'm sorry about some of the technical issues that we had today. Just about
we're always making it better. We're always trying to make it better. Sometimes there's nothing we can do about it.
Your job is just hopefully that it will come out okay, and that people will be able to understand well enough to, even though there was a little bit of static going on the radio today. But in any case, Lalie, we will see you again next week. And this is going to be, I feel, a more positive week, and we will talk about it next week, this positive week that's coming up. So for me, on the World News Jam, Eric Lecain and Lalie Tolentino, and everybody here at DZRJ and RJTV, everybody be safe out there. Everybody take care. We're going to get out of this, and things are going to become more positive. So without further ado, we will see everybody next week. We'll see you then.